guys, welcome back to The Break. Ayesha, I'm so happy that you're here with us today. Why don't you give us a little bit of background, what you're doing, what you're up to here in Los Angeles?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to connect and be able to be on the other side and get interviewed for the podcast. So my name is Ayesha, like Frankie said, and I run my own social media marketing agency where I help personal brands scale on social media. So we handle everything from we do their podcast distribution, all their social media posts, their lead generation, all through social media. We also do influencer marketing campaigns, just basically all the elements that kind of go into social media marketing and scaling a personal brand.
Yeah. Social media is gigantic.
Yeah.
If you're starting a brand, if you're starting a company and you're not on social media, I'm pretty sure you're dooming yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
especially
for us,
now.
Yeah. For us, for Elude, like Instagram, LinkedIn, those are the biggest ones for us, but that's how you get a community going. That's how you get basically your message out there.
Yeah, that's I mean,
what the hell.
But you just went through what 10, 15 different things for. I mean, that's massive for providing value to different clients, right? Like, wow. So I guess how did you start with that? Is that something that you just got right out of college and was like, okay, I'm going to go, build some clients and go into social media? Or
It kind of was a journey into this. So I started on Instagram when I was probably like 16 years old. And then I remember, so I was in the fitness industry. I was a personal trainer from 17 years old and a yoga teacher. So I did my yoga teacher training. And then I started just sharing my fitness lifestyle on Instagram. And through college, I remember I did my first bodybuilding show. And through sharing the journey on social media, I was realizing that people were actually really interested in it. And I know social media back then, the Instagram algorithm, everything was really different than it is today. But I would literally post a meal of rice and chicken breast and broccoli, and that would do really well engagement-wise. And people would ask me more questions. And when I started competing for my first bodybuilding show in first year of college, I was getting a lot of females at my university. In Canada, we say university, so that's how it always comes out.
Uni?
Yeah,
right?
uni.
Is a big
exactly.
Over in Europe, too, uni.
Yeah, so through the engagement and the reach out I was getting, I kind of was just seeing that there were so many people who wanted more information. So then, just to skyrocket the whole story, I started online coaching. And I remember at the time, online fitness coaching was like, what is that? How do you online coach someone? But it was awesome because I was an online coach, but my market was the girls at my university. So it was cool that I could also see them.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do in-person personal training. I would give them their programs online and their meal plans and adjust them. And then through university, I was doing that my 4 years and competing. And I realized like, wow, I just built my business online. and to skyrocket that journey, it started resulting into other fitness coaches, especially being in the fitness industry. A lot of my friends were doing personal training and they wanted to, obviously personal training is it's a busy job where you're running around training clients. If you're contracted, you're traveling to different gym locations, and you want to find out how to make more money for less time, right? Like that's kind of the model everyone wants.
That's the goal.
Yeah. So instead of being like a trainer who's exchanging time for money, working an hour for X amount of dollars, you want to scale that model and kind of go the online route and scale your personal brand, right? So I started doing consulting, and not just with fitness coaches that were friends of mine, but that extended into people who were my parents' friends and had businesses. And I remember one of the cool opportunities I had was to go into CTV News in Toronto and work with the news anchor on there on personal branding and not scaling the brand in terms of business because she has a job, loves her job, but to scale it in the sense of more PR opportunities and brand collaborations and working with different clothing brands maybe, or just doing other things in the PR realm of social media, because there's so many elements you can use a social media brand for.
Right.
Which is where I feel like the journey just kept evolving. So I did consulting for the first year. I still do consulting. And then it kind of leveraged into my clients demanding more. And then also I think that really happened because the clientele, when I moved to LA, they demanded more. Like, they're busy entrepreneurs. They don't have time to post on the grid every day and post on story 5 times a day and pitch themselves for brand deals and do influencer collaborations. Like, they're running their businesses. And that's where I found kind of like a gap in the social media agency market, that there's a lot of social media agencies out here in LA that work with just consumer-based brands, which is so needed. And we can go into that, why it's so needed. But my niche is personal brands. And the best way I like to explain my ideal client is like a Gary Vee. Someone who is clearly busy from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And Gary Vee does an amazing job at handling his personal brand, but he has a team behind him. A lot of people, I feel like he's really clear with that. Like, he'll engage, but he does have a team making those cool edits for him, posting on the gram. So with my clients, we handle all their social media and the lead gen as well, because a lot of them have their own coaching programs, have their own masterminds, have their own merchandise, have different events, and we handle all that lead gen through the platform, because I think social media is a tool to connect with anyone and everyone. Yeah. And when you leverage and build your personal brand the right way and connect with people and spend the time that's needed to be invested in growing your personal brand, you'll see the ROI come back tenfold.
Oh, big time. Yeah. I know a lot of VC meetings that we have, angels, different things like that. If you have a community already built around whatever your personal brand is or company, you're going to get funded all day.
It's extremely valuable.
If you have the community and you can turn on a monetization switch for that, forget it. You're good.
That's the really cool thing that I've been finding, and Gary Vee says it a lot as well. If you have any consumer brand, if you have a personal brand, people want to know the founder behind the brand. Like a clothing brand, people want to know who invented that brand. Or with the podcast that I started, it's been awesome. I've been interviewing founders like you guys probably have as well. And people care. Yeah. They want to know the human who created this water bottle brand or this cool company and the story behind it, because consumers are drawn to that. And that's what's going to separate brand A from brand B is the brand story and the connection. And
I also think too, and it goes back to kind of just building a personal brand, is I know now, I mean, clearly us building a brand in general, but you know, the first thing that I think of as soon as I look at like a brand is, okay, who's the founders that created this and how could I get in touch with them? That's kind of the mindset that I go into, or like, oh, let me go, you know, DM them or, you know, send an email just to say like, you know, I really like your brand. I like what you're doing. But yeah, that's kind of the first now piece of mind that I go to when trying to, you know, reach out and understand a different brand.
Yeah. So social media in general, there's so many different platforms that somebody could jump into if they want to start their own personal brand. I think it's probably useful just to hit all of them and see which one their community resonates with best. Some people, you know, it's LinkedIn. Other people really love Facebook. I hate Facebook. Some people love Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, TikTok, like anything. What would be your recommendation? Same kind of thing, like jump into all?
I definitely think it's where your consumers are, your ideal demo. I'm biased. I'm all about Instagram, but I do see so much value on LinkedIn and Facebook, and depends on your industry. So all my clients, we go all in on Instagram, and we also are just cross-posting because we're doing the work on Instagram. We're just putting those posts on Facebook. Sure. But Facebook, I find, unless you put money on that post, the eyes on it are a lot lower. Okay, yeah. That's what I find with Facebook analytics.
Yeah.
I believe it.
LinkedIn is a platform that I want to go more all in on because the organic reach is greater. Yeah. Like a post organically can do really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have like native video, and they're just introducing. I heard LinkedIn stories might come.
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
I did see that.
Oh, now we gotta figure that one out. Great.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And Snapchat, I definitely think a younger audience. Like I'm not on Snapchat. My clients aren't on Snapchat, but that's just because our demo isn't.
Right.
And would you say, so like, let's say a client comes to you and, you know, maybe they're on one, right? And you mentioned going into, let's say, Facebook and just putting some money behind that, you don't get that much or that many eyeballs. Do you do the same thing for Instagram? So do you suggest for clients to put money behind, let's say, a sponsored post or something like that to actually get more views? Is that
so
how?
I'm all about organic. So there's so many strategies that I employ to make sure that post does well. And when you employ it all and the post is maximized with the value behind it and the strategy and the execution of the post, it'll perform well with even the growth tactics of like hashtags and geotags and all the general tags and all the things you can do like that, the post will perform better. But I do think like some of my clients, there's a time now where they're at, one of my clients, amazing 80K followers on Instagram, super engaged following. So we had a really big launch for her last ebook, and she just does really well organically. But we're like, okay, like next step up, her posts aren't doing bad at all. We're just now investing an extra 5 to 10K a month now in ad spend because we want to get to that 100K month, you know? We want to hit those other ROI goals. Yeah. So I definitely think in the beginning, you got to try full out organically. That's just my opinion. And then when it comes time to invest properly, so don't just throw money on the ads because Facebook's saying, boost your post for $10. I think it needs to be targeted to see the ROI because I've done that.
Yeah. I think that that's great advice. I think even just not putting money right initially, like I know a lot of other business owners, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll just put some money into Facebook. Or
but it's so stupid because you don't even know what it's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, you know, maybe some people will come back with like, oh, okay, you know, we get some return over here, or these are the different customers.
But do you even know, in the beginning, like if you're not, to your point, if you're not doing it organically first to see exactly what the trends are.
And know your ideal avatar because that's how agencies target.
Yeah.
So with, like, and I always say, go to the experts, do it the right way. With my client, we're working with my other good friend, Jonathan's agency, who is experts at paid ads. So they gave us 20 pages of your ideal avatar because they want to create that exact audience and lookalike audiences. So you really have to know your demographic and who's what that piece of content is marketing and who that product is for in order for the ad to actually give you the ROI.
So let me ask a question more towards like, let's say somebody's just about to, so let's say they've created a brand or they're in the motions of creating a business and they want to now go into their kind of personal brand, which is exactly what you're focusing on. Where do you think that it's a direct relation to the brand or business that they're building when it comes to their personal brand? Because clearly there's got to be something different, right?
Yeah, that's an amazing question because it's so important.
Yeah,
it's such an important question. I get that all the time. And a personal brand is amazing because it has so many layers.
Yeah.
I always teach the 7 pillars of content for personal brands. And because I've been speaking to a lot of personal brands at masterminds and teaching them how to showcase themselves in the right light that also drives traction and sales to their business, it's a array of content. And the beauty about a personal brand is that you can just share yourself and share the lighthearted stuff that you think doesn't have a tie to your business, but it does. Like the fact that you like dogs and have 5 boys and live in LA connects with your ideal consumer you might not even know. And then the fact that you also run the business. So without going into like the 7 pillars of content.
Sure.
You got to pay for that.
No, I'm so happy to share it. I share it all the time for free, but I just, for the time's sake. You want to share all these elements. So have the business, have the day in the life. People love seeing the person's day in the life behind like what's it like to run a business. And for us, it's like, what's it like to run a business in your 20s, living alone in Los Angeles, starting this new chapter in our life. People want to see that. But say you are like 35, 40, and you have a family and you have this successful business you've been running. People want to see the behind the scenes of that. They don't just want to see the product. They want to hear the story about you.
I think there's a lot of trust involved in that too, because then they see you. Yeah. Now I trust you. I trust whatever brand that you made.
And I also think you make outside of even just trust is I do think that people can really relate to someone, right? So like, okay, let's say you're selling, and in our case, it's selling travel, right? So like ultimately, you know, somebody may not love travel, but they may also be a twin, or they may also be something, and they'll find different, basically relationships to yourself and be like, oh, wow, okay, I never thought about it this way. Or,
and then they connect to you, and that brings you a lifelong customer who's just like compelled to only buy from your brand. Like with Movement watches, I'm wearing their watch. I'm like a ride or die Movement watch fan because I was connected with them on Instagram from when I was like 17. I connected with the founders of the company. And then when I moved to LA at Gold's Gym, I see them there all the time. And now I'm just like, they're my friends. I got to support. And I just love the people behind the company. Yeah, the product's amazing, but when you love the brand and what it stands for and the people behind it, you will become a loyal customer. And that's what you need, especially apparently if we're going to get a recession or the economy, you need to have a lasting brand, or just even to save yourself, because people are always trying, say you come up with a really cool product and then someone else comes and they copy you, and
why are they going to stay with you?
Yeah.
Because they love you.
Well, and that's, and I think that's where it becomes so important to build a brand, is because ultimately, you can, and, I was listening to another podcast earlier today, but basically it was all around how, at the end of the day, you can create this, I think it was actually the Bumble, I don't know if you're familiar with Bumble, the dating app. But basically,
I did work with Bumble as an influencer.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah.
They're a really good brand with doing all those outreach and brand activations.
Yeah, and so the CEO, I forget her name now, it's eluding me, but basically, she was basically going into the whole context of somebody can go out and create Bumble.com, right, and create the same landing page. But what stands out between what Bumble actually is that they built a brand around her feeling of, okay, you know what, dating is a feeling that she wants to basically put out something different. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah. And I think as far as like bigger brands go, whenever a brand does brand activations that are real life, social media is amazing, but when you can do a real life event like Revolve, does Revolve Festival, they are never going to die. Did you hear they got acquired? They IPO'd. And
I think we're connected with the CFO there.
Yeah.
When they first started out, this is now a few years back, right? But I mean, they've been putting in work at Coachella and all of the other festivals as well, and kind of building out their own influencers, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of quite nice. Yeah.
And it's called like Revolve Festival.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone was saying, they joke about it, like Coachella, people aren't even going to go to Coachella. They're just going to go to Revolve Festival.
Wow.
And all.
Well, we saw those photos. That house was dope.
Yeah. It's insane. But that brand truly is so much more than just a clothing brand.
Yeah.
It's a community.
Yeah.
It's almost like a social status. Like you want to be a part of it. You want to get a wristband to that Revolve Festival.
So maybe pulling it back a little bit, because hearing about all these big brands,
like,
right? You're like, wow, okay, that's exactly what I want to be building, right? But I guess when someone's first starting out, and let's say they have maybe a few hundred followers, maybe even a few thousand, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they've built a business, or they're about to go in to build a business. What would be kind of the first few thoughts that would come of, okay, what do you think about for building a personal brand?
Yeah, so I always say when someone comes to your Instagram page, they need to know who you are, what you stand for, and what you have to offer. So you have to give people a reason why they should follow you. So I am like, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that if you're just going to share like your dog and what you eat for dinner and the behind the scenes, why would people care about that, right?
Yeah.
You need to provide value. So let's give an example with this. So can we use ourselves?
Sure.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with my own life, I share so much about not just like what I'm doing with my clients and on my Instagram, like a day in the life. I'm always showing that on story. And I'm not saying that every story is going to get like crazy engagement, but over time you make people remember who you are, what you stand for, and what you have to offer. So when someone needs that social media person, they need a social media speaker, I'm the first in their mind, because I'm showing up every day consistently, showing what I'm doing. And in my posts, I always make it around building a personal brand and social media strategy, and I tie that into my own life and my own journey in my business, and then also relate it back to the people reading my posts. Because whenever I post a piece of content, it's always just like, what are they getting out of it? Mm-hmm. Am I giving them a reason to come back to my page? Because I think that if I'm getting someone's attention for 2 minutes, it's got to be something of value. Otherwise, especially with Instagram now, if it's not a quality piece of content, you're not going to perform well in the algorithm. Yeah. The algorithm's going to hide your post.
Yeah, and I also think it's not just about, right? It's not just about posting, let's say, a photo of your dog or what you're eating, but I think it also relates back to kind of that overarching mission of like, what do you stand for, right? Because just a dog post is cute and great. You're like, okay, that person's got a really cute dog, but if something happens with that dog, I don't know, like it's sick or unfortunately something, I don't know, happens, right? Like you want to share that
being
because
vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think that actually goes a long way as well, because then you get people to reach out and you say, hey, you know, I'm so sorry, you have a sick dog. I don't know why we went down that route. But I think just being vulnerable and you need to,
because people connect with that. So it's not just about posting about social media and being so black and white, like I'm just about value, but it's also sharing the ups and downs. For myself, it's the ups and downs of my entrepreneurial journey and moving to LA alone at 23. That was a big piece of my audience. Like I remember when I moved out here, my engagement on my Instagram, because I was so vulnerable with sharing the journey, I started a YouTube channel on it, and the outreach I got from people being like, wow, that took a lot of courage. I couldn't imagine doing, just like the messages I received in that connection with my audience was insane. And then I share a lot of like the lighthearted, random, like when I moved into a place, like sharing a lot of the behind the scenes of furnishing it on story. Yeah. So it's not like on my grid and it's just like people can see the behind the scenes, and then putting those stories in your highlights. Okay. So I always say to my clients, have IG highlights that represent all parts of you. So if you are an entrepreneur that has a business, have a highlight for your business. If you're an entrepreneur that has, usually have all this, so you have a family, have a personal IG highlight, have speaking, have brand deals, have whatever your brand represents up in your highlights, because people are not strolling down the grid as much, especially if someone comes to your page maybe in 3 months from now and you posted some really amazing piece of content today. They're not going to really stroll probably down. So you got to have your best stuff at the top.
Do you recommend like doing a clean of the grid every once in a while?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Because I was thinking that too. And that's a great question. I have my posts up from when
because I just literally deleted everything from like when I started. Yeah. And just started again, I guess.
Those posts that I posted of like chicken and broccoli are still on my feed. And you know why I like it? Because I think it draws people in to see the journey. A lot of people, surprisingly enough, reach out to me from 4 or 5 years ago saying that, oh, I remember when we competed together in the same competition, or we went to school together, and you came so far. And it's kind of, for me, I think it's cool to share all parts of the journey and having no shame about it. I feel like a lot of people on social media try to make their lives look like a highlight reel. Yes. And they don't want to share, like, for me it's like, oh, that post got 200 likes and it's so ugly, but to me it's like, no, it's a part of my journey. Like, I would never tell a client to post a picture like I have in the past, but I think it's cool to have it up because I've grown so much from that, and to show that, like, that's where I was and I can totally back myself. Like, back then, that served a purpose, that probably got leads to my business, like, explaining it, and I think it all encompasses who you are. Yeah. And should stay.
And I also do think, though, now more than ever, right, people are going onto Instagram or any one of those social channels, and they're more about just showing what's always going on in terms of the best case scenarios, right? And so you're saying, like, this highlight reel of their life. It's like, I think now people are catching on that, like, you know, okay, that's not your real life, right? Like, this is something that you're just putting out there, and seeing the vulnerability of, you know, oh, whatever this happened, or, oh, I have a flat tire. Now, I don't know why I'm showing bad situations, but
shit happens.
But shit happens, yeah. But I think just putting it out there in just terms of, like, you know, what is actually happening in your real life actually goes so much further.
Yeah, 100%. And people wonder why their engagement lacks. I know a lot of bloggers who are friends of mine who post really pretty content, and it's like fashion, and they're on Rodeo Drive and they look perfect and it's blue skies. It's just that their post doesn't do any better than, I don't know, their past posts, or now that the algorithm's changing, it's probably doing a little bit worse. And they wonder why. And my thing is, it's because you're not being polarizing. You're not like showcasing anything that provokes emotion or gives a consumer a photo, or an audience a compelled reason to reach out. And I think because of social media, the directions it's going, you need to be like that. Because if you think about, like, ourselves, if we posted a photo of ourselves crying or something, or a video of something that happened, I feel like so many people would reach out and be like, what do you mean?
What the hell's going on?
So actually, this is a really good question that just popped up into my mind, I think, right? And I think a lot of other, you said it, we'll find out. But basically, right, so when you're building a brand, when you're building your own personal brand, how direct can or should you put it to your business? So, like, when I say how direct, should there be a link to your business in your own personal brand, right? Should it be selly in the sense where, you know, you want a funnel, right? Because clearly you're trying to build the connection both to your brand and your business, but also to yourself.
You don't want to be a salesman.
You don't want to be a salesman, and you don't want somebody to come onto your page and then just think, oh, okay, this is just his business, account number 2. So where does that line cross, and how do you get that across?
I think there's definitely a mesh of it, because you definitely have to drive traction to your business. But I think that is definitely a fine line with being like, every day you show up and it's like, buy my course, buy my ebook. We both know some people who do that stuff. And that's not attractive. That's not going to help drive sales. You always got to think about delivering value, and the audience will support. I guess it's hard. It's a great question, but I feel like I'm always like, oh, you just know almost. But some people aren't self-aware in that sense, where they think it's okay to just like pitch. But I think it's more, if I had to like say it to everyone, always just lead with value. Yeah. And let the leads come in, because when you're leading with value, if you give your best stuff for free and you share more about even if it's a brand like a consumer-based brand that's not necessarily coaching, but you're giving inspiration and tips about how you got investors for your company, people are going to reach out authentically from you just providing value. And another thing I really want to add in that I forgot to add in earlier was engage on the platform, because just because you post a piece of content, I know it sounds like obviously engage, but if someone's reaching out to you and it has a question and I answer everyone with a video or a voice note. Partly because it's way easier than for me to type. But that's
actually a pretty cool tip, yeah.
Well, what it does for my engagement on my posts, and then everyone who I've responded with.
You can do voice notes through Instagram?
Yeah, you just press the little mic and hold it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's like texting. It's so great. And everyone who's ever asked me a question about their business, their personal brand, and I've replied with a voice note, they're shook. Like they're
could you imagine getting a voice note from somebody that you just reached out to?
Yeah.
That you don't know, that you look up to? That's crazy.
I have a buddy of mine who does a podcast that I kind of look as, in a sense, kind of like a mentor. And anytime I send him a question or anything like that, he always does respond in a voice note. And I always think to myself, like,
pro tip.
Wow, like, okay, that
say their name.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they remember
holy
that.
Shit.
Wow. It's like little things.
This is this is definitely going to help.
And you're right, it gets your, what is it called?
You're
just your
top
stream of
mind
consciousness
now for like anyone. And I'm not even saying, say Rebecca reaches out and has a question on social media. And maybe Rebecca's she's not my ideal, because most of my audience, if anyone's listening from my audience, they're not my ideal client. They're not anymore, because since I've been in LA, it's a different caliber. They're like totally different niche than who my main audience is on Instagram. So when I answer with a voice note, I'm literally not trying to get their sales. I just try to provide value. But say Rebecca has an older sister's friend who is my ideal client. Yeah. Rebecca's the first person to be like, you need to talk to Ayesha.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't,
that's a big pro tip.
Yeah.
And I also think too, it just goes to show like that person's actually listening, right? And so like, there's, whether it's 20 or 50,000 or 100,000, followers in general, right? Like, I was saying this earlier, but like DMing and, reaching out through maybe Facebook messaging, it's kind of become the new text. I don't know how you feel about that, where the line is different. Like, I feel like it's a little bit more personal than like an email of like a cold outreach. But I do think that hearing from someone is even like a step. That's a step. Yeah. That's somebody actually engaging as opposed to just like responding back.
And if your feed is on point with posting content that really showcases who you are, you'll get a response back to that DM. When you get those DMs from those ghost accounts that are like, we'll give you likes and followers.
Check out our page.
Yeah. Sign me up.
But when someone DMs you for a message, or regardless of their message, but they actually have a brand behind them, you will listen. Mm-hmm. I think that's how we all, because I know you guys are doing the same thing as I am with the podcast outreach. We reach out through Instagram. I think that's why people reply right away so warmly, because we have brands and we're real people.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good point. And I joke around with you as well. Like, why did this person respond back, right? Like, what? Like, really, the truth is like these people are running businesses, right?
Don't say that.
Well, no, but I think that it's true. I think
sometimes I'm like, pinch me. I just got this person on my podcast.
Yeah, but I do think that it's putting yourself out there and just like being real about it and being like, hey, look, this is what we're trying to create.
In your bio, it has your link to your company.
Right.
So it's like, oh, this guy's he has a company. We have all these synergies. We have mutual followers.
It's not him just trying to get advice or talk about his business. It's
I treat Instagram like LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's a
for me. Like, you could see mutual followers. I can see the people you hang out with. I can see
the engagement,
what you do.
whatever's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how, like, I know it's like how successful you are at what you do. Like, see.
Do you use that, let's say, then to engage again? So, like, to give you an example, right? Like, let's say you're following someone and you know that person posted about, hanging out with, I don't know, another entrepreneur or another client. Would you then use that as like hey, I saw that you guys were hanging out, I'm connected to this person, or is that not really the way that you approach?
I think you totally can do it. I feel like it's all about what's the purpose behind it.
Yeah.
So I don't like when people network. I hate that word networking, but network for the sake of just getting something in return. Yeah. I think it has to come from a genuine place. Like, you guys are reaching out to people to get them on your podcast, not for you guys, but for you guys to provide value to your audience. Right. And I think that's such a selfless mission. Yeah. So I feel like the other person can see it. So when I've been trying to get in people for my podcast, and I'm so stunned and grateful for the response I'm getting with some entrepreneurs who are so busy and they're giving me an hour of their time, I'm just so appreciative. But then, and part of me is like, wow, like, I can't believe they're doing this. But then they are really called to be a part of the mission that I have to help younger audiences go after their best life and chase their dreams.
Yeah, I love that.
I think it's about, like, the why behind it and your mission.
I think, like, especially, going back and forth from East Coast to West Coast, there's definitely a mentality difference between entrepreneurs. Like, they want to help that entrepreneur community. So that's what we're doing with this. We're trying to keep that community going. And I think anybody in that space feels that. So when they get reached out to by any one of us, they want to,
That's all the more reason to do to have a personal brand that showcases the type of person that you are, because then you're just going to attract those abundant mindset people and the people who just want to give back and don't want to pick your brain and go for coffee because they want to get something from you.
Which I'm
they
sure
actually
everybody
want
asks.
an exchange.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I meet someone or connect with someone on Instagram or do a podcast with someone, I'm like, hey, how can I provide value to you? You provided value to me. How can it's an exchange. It's not like a take.
Right.
And I feel like when you approach people on Instagram, because I know a lot of people do that to me all the time, they are like, can I pick your brain and take you out for coffee? And they just want to get something. There's a line, but you can feel the energy. I don't know if it's too woo-woo, if I've just me in LA for so long that I'm like really about the energy.
No, I agree. I also do think, though, it's like, when you meet with people and you connect on not just a business level, right? Because I think that there's a difference there of business and just like actually just hanging around people, that abundant mindset, and those people that, come more towards that idea tend to just stay together, right? So it's like,
we totally vibed on that too with the person we were talking about earlier, who reached out to both of us, and we both were like, oh, we had that vibe. Yeah,
and by even being able to voice that, means, I think, that you're already at that same kind of mentality of like, okay, I'm just being real constantly. So, are you in that same boat? And just kind of, going through those ideas.
Yeah. But man, we're almost up at that fast 40 minutes.
Wow.
Which is crazy. For those of, the audience that don't follow you, where can they follow you? What, how often do you post? Do you want to drop some links?
I'm always on Instagram. If I don't post on the feed every day, I'm posting on story every 3 hours so I can reappear at the top of the algorithm. So on Instagram at Ayesha Sehra. I don't know if you're going to link things below so they can see the spelling there. Also, I just launched a podcast called Coffee and a Good Vibe. It's just because I've been meeting so many amazing people, especially since I moved to LA, and I'm like, I should be recording these conversations. So I think it's such an amazing way to just connect with people and share value and record the conversations that I'm so grateful to have to inspire other people. So the podcast is kind of this new platform that I've jumped on, and I'm super passionate about that. So if you guys want to check that out, everything is always on my Instagram first, and I have a YouTube channel, and I post on there frequently. But it's all, I feel like I funnel it all on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can find all of it in my IG highlights, in my bio. I utilize Instagram for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I guess, is there a last question or anything? I'm trying to...
Yeah, I guess in general, right? So, I keep going back to someone who is just starting because, and let's say they're just creating an Instagram, like what do they do?
Word that I want to,
Right?
What do they do? So I would say when you're showing up on Instagram, I know in the beginning, a lot of people who I meet who are new to the Instagram game have this fear of showing up because of imposter syndrome and because of being vulnerable, because of internet trolls. And there's always going to be people who hate, because that's just how it is. But
that's life.
When you start showing up and sharing and providing value online, you will see maybe 10 people get inspired by you, and for every 10, it's not even that high, but say you inspire even one person on your journey of showing up on social and starting to grow your brand, that's so worth it, like for any message you get. Especially when I was starting in the fitness industry, being like 17 and posting so much vulnerably about my fitness journey, I got a lot of people being like, who are you? Like, what? Like, you get a lot of that. But then I'm like, wow, I really helped like 30 of my female clients, and then there's like, I have like 3,000 followers, and I get such positive feedback that outweighs any negativity, and then it just grows. So then I feel like once you start and you know your why and why you're showing up, why you're serving, and you know the greater mission, nothing's going to stop you. And to have patience in the journey and not be concerned on the analytics and the likes, but be concerned on the influence in the relationships that you're growing.
I think that's huge, because I think for anybody who just is starting out, right, it's like you can get deterred from like, having a few likes or a few views, right? And it just kind of be persistent about that and know that you're providing some value, and that in the long run, right, whether it's one video or 50 videos, it's just putting out work and doing that. Yeah.
When I started my YouTube channel, it's still slow growth with YouTube. And I used to be like, oh my God, only 500 views or 300 views. And then I shifted the mindset to like, wow, 300 people are watching this video. Yeah. 300 eyes watched me for 20 minutes. Like, shifting your mindset about everything changes the game. And once you start, it's like a domino effect. And there's such a difference between having influence and having true influence. And that's something I'm super passionate about, because there's influencers out there that I listen to a lot of podcasts on this there's an influencer who had, I think she has like 5 million followers, and she couldn't sell t-shirts for like $20.
I did see
You heard about that?
Yeah.
It like didn't sell, and
it's
she has
more
5
about
million.
the engagement number. So
it's all about your community. Yeah.
You could have 1 billion followers, but if 10 people watch you, then that's your audience. It's
and
not the 1 billion.
You could have
it's
100 followers, but they could be diehard followers who each of those
each one of them will do a call to action or do something.
And you have a $1,000 ebook, and you have 100 people who want to buy. Like, you have to think about it in the other way. I know 7-figure earners who have like 10K and under. And then I know people who are 400K and struggling to pay rent. So it's like, it doesn't really matter.
Don't be blinded by the numbers. That's a big one.
I love that.
Ooh. All right, guys. Well, I hope you had an awesome journey with us today. I don't know who we have on next week.
We'll be in New York next week, so we'll try to get somebody on from the East Coast. But this has been great. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun conversation. It wasn't just like where did you grow up? What do you like to do for fun?
Yeah. Awesome.
But all right, guys, we will see you in the next episode.
See ya.